Alyssa,
Hey,
what's going on?
not much.
How are you doing?
I'm good. You know, it's funny. I haven't interviewed or been interviewed in like a really long time.
Yeah, because you used to have your own podcast.
I did.
Coffees and Convo?
Coffee and Convos.
Coffee and Convos.
Yeah.
And when are you bringing that back?
Very soon.
Are you really?
Yeah.
You're not just saying it?
No.
A lot of people say they're going to do a million things. And what frustrates me is when people say they're going to do this, this, and this, and just nothing happens. So I'm going to keep you accountable.
Please do. That's what I need.
Okay.
And this is actually inspiring me because I have been working behind the scenes trying to bring back this platform. And I did rebrand it, and I feel like I did that prematurely without having anything to follow it. Mm-hmm. I was just so excited because I was like, wow, it's been 7 years since I started Coffee and Convos. But as a person, you know, you grow out of things. And I think just the name, like, I still love coffee. I love having conversations. I love connecting with people. And that has just always been the premise of, like, connection and our stories. So there's a longer story that comes to this, but I changed the name to We the Storytellers. Okay. And it's a platform where I really want to highlight people's stories at the end of the day. That's all I want to do. And there's going to be more than a podcast, I hope. So,
okay. Yeah. Well, in honors of Coffees and Convo, appreciate the latte.
Of course.
Very good. Thank you so much. You've been going back to that podcast. You were doing it before it was a cool thing. Like, you were the only person that I actually knew in my circle when I first met Adrian way back when that actually was producing their own podcast. Because every podcast I've listened to is from like celebrities or people just I didn't know. And you were the first one with the kind of quality you had. It was like, damn, like, okay, so that sparked an idea. I'm like, so it is doable for anyone just to create a podcast in a way. Absolutely. With have some sort of like production level. And just coming to realize that you're a low-key influence in me wanting to produce a podcast eventually. Just seeing how someone, not saying someone in my level, but like someone that I know that could do it. I'm like, hey, I could do it too.
Oh, 100%.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, Alyssa, we haven't introduced you. This is Adrian's girlfriend. She is a producer, correct? Mm-hmm. All around boss. She does so much in the back and behind the scenes that no one ever sees. But Adrian always tells me all the work that you do, and it's like, dude, like it's insane the things that you do. I just can never fathom doing. But if you want to give a little quick synopsis of your life and who you are, how you got in the space, we would love to get to know you a little bit more.
Thanks, Alberto. I'm so excited to be here. Very nervous. Again, it's been so long since I've been like on a microphone. So this is very exciting. So like you said, I'm a producer. What the fuck does a producer do? Right?
I always ask that question. I'm like, so what exactly does she do besides, when I think of producer, I think of like the coordinator.
Yeah.
But again, I'm ignorant to it. So educate me.
So little did I know, I didn't know what a producer was 4 years ago. And I honestly felt like the title fell into my lap. And the more I started to learn about it and the more that I looked into what a producer is, I literally have a book that says, what does a producer do? And I read it and I was like, oh my God, that's what I do. So for Futures Past, I'm the producer. I'm also what I consider the creative director. I'm the one that the client talks to first. You're also a producer. You're the producer of this podcast. You're the producer of your business. I'm the producer of, working on our video production business. Mm-hmm. And I am the person who, like you said, coordinates things. But it's beyond that, right? Like you're thinking about problem solving before a problem happens, I feel. And I think that's what film production and video production is at the end of the day. It's like you're just overlooking at a bird's eye view at what the project is and seeing how you can solve everything. Like, okay, who's the crew that I need? Who do I need to hire and bring on? What does the scope of work look like? What do the deliverables look like? Do I need to outsource an editor? And if I do, what does that look like? The budgeting, the cost of everything.
It sounds like logistics.
It's definitely logistics. So it's not a sexy job, but I love it. I think it's sexy.
It sounds like very chaotic, and I feel like you need to be a different breed to love that kind of chaos. Like me, tell me where to be, when to be there, and I'll shoot it. But yeah, like you said, I technically am, since I'm more of a one-man band. You guys are on a larger scale with working with a crew of 15 to 20 heads. Whew, that sounds, I've been to some of you guys' sets way back when, like a couple years ago, and just seeing it's cool seeing how the machine works, but it's like, man, actually making that happen looks too chaotic for my taste. And I guess you just got to know what you like and what you don't like.
That, and I also, there's like a certain art to producing. It's like you have to find the synergy between like everybody on set. Like you create that energy. Like if you're producing this project, you're responsible for how everything is, from pre-production, principal, photography to post. Like you're overseeing the whole project. You're seeing the flow of everything. And I think that's why I love being a producer, is because I love seeing like the behind the scenes happen. I'm like, no one sees the orchestration behind a project. You just see the final project or final product, whether it's on social or on TV, whatever it is, but you don't know all the energy and effort it took, whether it was like 12-hour days, 15 to 75 person crew, whatever that looks like. But I love that. I love the energy of everything, like being on Zoom calls with a client and just being like, oh my God, like let's talk about this project. What do you want to do? How can I help bring it to life? Whether I could help you with the creative or you have an idea of your own. How can we spice it up, make it better? How can we make it worth your while also like bringing my skills and also bringing my crew? Like I'm very passionate, especially as a woman and as a woman of color. I'm very passionate about bringing other just diverse people into our projects, because I've been on one too many sets where it's predominantly men or predominantly non-minority people, you know? So it's just like, I always feel like the minority on set, but I want everyone to feel and see our value, because like San Diego for one is hella dope, and the filmmakers here and everyone who is creative here in San Diego, they're fucking dope, you know? And I'm tired of seeing that narrative of you have to move to LA to be successful in this industry.
Right. Yeah. And something I've discussed with Adrian and you guys in regards to like, I'm surprised you guys haven't made the move to LA, because that's, again, generalizing from the outside in, you would just think SoCal, Hollywood production, it's got to be LA.
Right.
Something going on in San Diego. Like San Diego's like the little brother to like LA in general when it comes to sports, work, lifestyle, et cetera, et cetera. But I feel like you guys been able to create some buzz here in San Diego. And going back to you guys doing the 10 to 12-hour work days, that's just production. That's not even including the pre-production part.
Right.
And then you work so hard for a 30-second piece that's going to be on TV, and then people are going to judge it within seconds. That sucks. Yeah. It's because like they don't know, like even going back to like Hollywood films, there's movies that just completely blow, but it's like it sucks that it sucks, because I know they work so hard for this to make this happen. Because I've been in sets, like again, smaller sets compared to like Hollywood films, and it takes a lot of freaking work and hours and dedication. And just for a consumer to just say, "Oh, that movie sucked, that commercial sucked," kind of blows.
It does.
Going back to one of your most recent sets, I forget the product brand, but you guys just started rolling it out recently with the babies.
The baby toddler brand, Lalo.
Yes. So I don't know anything about that, but Kristen knows about it. It's like, oh wow, they shot for Lalo. That's I'm like, who are they? I'm like, that's a fucking big deal.
Yeah.
And I'm like, oh wow, that's pretty sick. And then seeing the behind the scenes, because I remember seeing the behind the scenes like way back when it was first happening. Just seeing the production level, from the cameras to the rigs to the gaffers, like you guys manipulating the sun, and was insanely crazy to see for me. Something I could never pull off, but that's why having a team that specializes in certain parts of the production is so cool to see. But just want to give you guys the flowers for even producing that. Hell of a job. And I hope to see a little bit more about that, more of that style production.
Yeah, well, we are working on rolling out more assets because think about how fucking cute it is to see babies and these raw moments of families on set interacting with these products. We have so many unused clips, so we're working on rolling that out very soon, probably towards the end of the month. But that's cool, right? Like that's cool, right? But isn't that cool where you see like kind of like what you said. Like sometimes you scrap a project, or sometimes like you don't love something enough to put it out or whatever. But there was just something so magical about that project because there was always something happening. And again, I give so much love to that crew. And honestly, it was also very last minute. I don't know if Adrian told you.
No.
But so funny story. The way that this production even came about is I met someone 7 years ago through Coffee and Convos. Yeah. Her name is Courtney. She is such a badass. We collaborated back then for both of our platforms. She had a platform called Lady Killers where she amplified local women, local artists who are women in San Diego, and would throw events, and we worked on a few things together. So I had her on the platform before it was even a podcast. I was a guest during her events, and then like we just kept supporting each other from afar ever since. And, you know, when you make connections like that, I'm a firm believer that, like, our paths cross with people for a reason. So it's like if I find, like, for example, you came into our life, and I'm like, dude, he's fucking dope. I find inspiration from everybody that I meet, no matter what they do. You know, you could be in a different industry. It's not just filmmaking. It's anything. Like, the reason why I even started Coffee and Combos back then was because I didn't know what I wanted to do in life. I was so inspired by entrepreneurship and people who were just doing their own thing that I was like, I want to do that. And here I am, you know? So when I made that connection with Courtney, little did I know it would lead to her being a creative director for Lalo. And
she wasn't a creative director then.
She wasn't.
She wasn't.
No,
okay.
She was a graphic designer. She was hustling. I believe she went from like different agencies and different things like that. She was also a photographer. That's how I met her. It was from also like a Beers and Camera event. Like, shout out to them. They're also how I met a lot of really dope creative women and creatives in general. But yeah, I put myself out there a lot. And that's like what I love to do, is just like, I want to find my people, because for the longest time, I didn't have that. I didn't have a community I could lean on. I didn't have access to like inspiration. Social media was not a place for that. It was like, it still kind of is. It's just like, oh, look at this pretty thing, and like, let me sell you these things. And it's just like, I don't want that. I want substantial connections. I want to hear people's stories. I want to get to know these people. Like, what is it like? So I always invited these people for coffee, and that's what Coffee and Convos was, and like that's what I hope to bring back in a different capacity. But anyways, she's a creative director for Lalo now. She needed production within 2 weeks, and
it's always last minute.
It's always last minute, but like kudos to her, because the thing is, she had to problem solve. You know, like, I don't know the whole story. But she was just like, okay, I just want to work with someone local, because I believe the people that she has worked with before, she would have had to fly them out.
Cost money.
And it does cost a lot of money to produce, and like travel, lodging, all this stuff. And I think it was just, there was additions of like red flags for her, that she was just like, hey, I was on set, and she was just like, can we talk? I would love to get a proposal from you so I could see what it would look like to work with you and your team and whatever. So I took some time, and I told my producer, and said like, hey, let me take this call really quick. It shouldn't take longer than 30 minutes. Talk to her, was figuring out what I could provide, right, as a production company. And we basically took the lead on crewing up, helping her source locations. She already had talent locked in, so that was great. She had her brother be the DP, so we didn't want to replace that. We were like, cool, Adrian could help direct. And
he's got an eye for that.
He does, and it was very sweet, because what you don't see in the behind the scenes is him like talking to these kids like in his like baby voice, and it's just like really getting these beautiful moments, like getting the families out of their shell and everything, and like, yeah, helping direct the shot of like, oh, what do you think about this and that? And I'm like, I fucking love it. I love seeing it. It was such a fun experience. That was 3 days. So we had 2 weeks to figure out, where are we going to film? who can we bring on in 2 weeks? Who's available, right? Like
such short notice.
Such short notice. And surprisingly, like, even though there's so much talent here in San Diego, a lot of the time everyone's booked and you're like, shit, who do you know? Like, so you're constantly trying to find connections that way too. It's really cool. But anyways, like, yeah, that's how we got that gig. And I'm so grateful because it's like, we would not have gotten that if I didn't connect with Courtney 7 years ago. You literally never know who you could connect with. And not to say like you're going to find a transactional value in someone, but it's just like I genuinely fucked with Courtney. I thought she was so cool. I thought what she was doing was great. She has a creative eye, hence why she's a creative director for a really awesome company. And like I just saw that one of the April Fool's jokes that she like came up with as like their baby sippy cup as a wine glass for adults is actually in production. It was a joke that she like sketched out, was like, this would be so funny. And like now it's coming to fruition and people are purchasing it because they were like, fuck yeah, I need that. It's a good match with my baby, whatever the reason may be. But yeah, so I just have so much admiration for the people that I meet, and I just always support from afar, whatever that looks like. It's like sharing their post, it's engaging with like what they're doing, starting conversations. And it doesn't have to be seen on social media. It's all of the work and like the relationship building that you have behind the scenes that I really think matters. You know, it's like the things that you do offline. And it's like, hey, Alberto, you want to grab a cup of coffee? I would love to like pick your brain. And not even that. It's just like, I would love to like talk as like creator to creator. Like, this is how I'm feeling. What do you think I could do better? Or like, what experience have you had where you had a shitty client or something like that? How do you think I should react to this? It's like, I know Adrian and I know myself that we reach out to our friends who are also,
he does a really great actually had
job.
A conversation with him 2 days ago just telling me how like he's really good at giving flowers. Like he called me like, hey dude, I'm proud of you, man, for all the podcast stuff you're doing. You're dedicating so much time in doing this and balancing work life. It's like, I just want to let you know, man, you're killing it and keep going. And like, it's something I need to get better at doing because I don't know if it's a good thing or a bad thing. I'm just like tunnel vision. I'm just so focused on what's the next step, that I kind of forget to like, oh wait, I got to recognize where I'm at right now. Like stay present. Like I'm doing something pretty good right now and I need to acknowledge it instead of trying to go for the bigger piece or the bigger number or whatnot. But yeah, you guys definitely do a good job in tapping into your friends and your circle for sure.
Thanks.
What are your thoughts in social media right now?
Gosh, I don't even
Like
know.
the climate.
The climate of social media is insane right now.
In a good way or a bad way? Because I feel like it's always been insane.
It's always been insane, but I think it's just gotten worse, especially with like AI.
It's getting scary.
Shit, it's getting scary. I'm borderline, like, I don't know if I want to have kids because, like, whatever the fuck generation's going to come out next is going to be fucked up. I'm not going to
become Terminator 2 Judgment Day.
No, for real. Like, Adrian literally had this conversation last night about how, and I didn't see this video myself, so I don't know.
Was it the Elon Musk one?
Oh, I don't know about that one.
Okay,
but
never
there
mind.
was this kid he would deliver Amazon packages, steal them, and then he got a Ferrari or something, or a Lamborghini, something like that. But everything is fake. So he bought the vest to look like he was an Amazon delivery person, blah, blah, blah.
Ironically,
and he got sued.
Ironically, he probably got that Amazon vest on Amazon.
Right? But no, he got sued by Amazon. And then so he's trying to like go on social media and be like, no, this is how I did it. Haha. But there was millions of views and it looked so real because he also it looked like an actual news report. He used the ABC logo and everything. And also that's the fucked up part, right? Is that like, I don't know why people are doing this. It's like you're creating this fake scenario so you could get viral. Like you getting viral, for example, is a way different story because that's a genuine conversation. That's a genuine I don't know, that's like real shit. Right. But then for something so fake and that was AI generated at the same time, you have to be careful about what you intake nowadays. You have to be careful and you have to check your sources. You have to be so vigilant. And I think that's also why over the years I've just strayed away from social media, and why I've been so turned off by it is because there isn't, again, substance. Like, there isn't a lot of heart put into these things. It's either clickbait, it's trying to get people, trying to get views, trying to get, like, I don't know.
All that for a drop of clout.
All of that for a number, all of that.
Some people are like selling their souls just to get some numbers up there, which is, it's a little sad. And again,
people buy followers too.
Yeah, it's something I try to tell clients of mine, like, yo, stray away from like buying bots, because it's only going to destroy your social media. But it's just the facade, man. It's like literally the Matrix. It's kind of weird.
It is. It's scary.
Yeah.
Scary.
Like, scammers right now are going crazy with the AI. I just saw a report on this poor mom got a call. Someone used her daughter's voice, and somehow they use the AI, and it's like, hey, mom, I just got captured by somebody. They want a ransom of $1 million. And so little did we know, like, the actual real daughter is out there skiing, having a great time, and the mom's going through, I can't even imagine what she's going through.
Oh my God, the heartbreak.
Thinking your daughter is like abducted and whatnot, but like, it's getting scary and scarier. And so I try to tell, like, especially like the older generation, because it's easy for them to fall for it. I tell my mom, like, hey, if you hear a voice or a video of my face, because my face is in 4K on YouTube at this point with the podcast, so it's easy to replicate me.
Oh my God,
and do all
I didn't
that.
even think about that.
I've been thinking about, I'm a paranoid person, so I've tried to think of like, hey, well, how could people get to me or get to my loved ones? And so if you hear anything about that, call my number, FaceTime me, and make sure that's me first before you do anything stupid, because people are getting scammed left and right. So it's the AI is,
that's so scary.
Like, again, back to the AI. I've used some of the AI stuff, for example, like ChatGPT.
Right.
I've used some. I just started playing with that, flirting with the idea of like, let me see what kind of captions it could come up with. So the last couple of episodes, I've been just saying, hey, make a caption about going viral, or make a caption about such and such. And I'll take bits and pieces of what they're saying, because I hate coming up with Instagram captions. It's just torture for me. So that's as far as I go when it comes to AI. But now, like, AI is getting more advanced throughout the day. It's like, it's getting pretty scary.
It is. And didn't like all of the like richest people or whoever has influence, Elon Musk, whatever, didn't they sign like an agreement that they were like, the development of AI needs to slow down because it's getting just too intense for everyone? And it's, yeah, you're right. It is scary. Like, I believe in using AI as a resource, kind of like what you said. I use ChatGPT when sometimes a client email comes in and I'm just like, I'm at my capacity. I'm like, I just spent so long all day behind this computer already. I don't have any more energy. Hey, take this email, copy and paste it, and just be like, how can I respond to them?
I've never thought about doing it for an email.
It's great.
I'm gonna start tapping in with that.
It is amazing. You're like,
because creating the perfect email is so mentally draining.
It is.
It'll take me sometimes like 30 minutes. I remember when I first started the freelance world, I would tell Kristen, like, hey, help me sound professional.
Right, yeah.
And so Kristen would kind of like draft it in a way or proofread my emails. And now at this point, like with time and consistency, I've gotten better and better. It's come a little easier. But there's some instances where like, man, I don't know what to say. I don't know how I really want to say this. I know what I want to say in my head, but how do I put it in paper? But I'm gonna tap in with that.
No, it's great because, sometimes the client's like, well, what is this fee? Or like, why is so-and-so so expensive? And you're like, I don't have, like, aside from what I normally want to say, which would not be professional, how can I take this, respond in a professional manner, explain that this fee means blah, 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 blah. Or like, we had to raise our rates because last year when you hired us, we've invested in our gear, we've invested in our skill set, and then like, you just put some keywords and then holy shit, the email that comes out, yeah, you have to adjust a couple words because you're like, I don't fucking sound like that. But like, it helps so much. It just cuts down your time because time is valuable. Time is money. Like, you want to spend that time doing something else. Maybe not spend it behind a computer or on a screen. You know what I mean?
Interesting that you're saying about the price increase, because yeah, we're dealing with insane inflation. So the fact that people still ask why, come on, bro. I'm sure you are raising your prices in your profession as well. But something I saw recently with the, I'm sure you're familiar with The Future.
Oh, yes.
Chris, I don't forget Chris Do.
Yeah, yeah.
I just saw an Instagram reel recently about someone asking like, hey, so how do you respond when someone says like, yo, so why did you increase your rates? Like I noticed last year, blah, blah, blah. Exactly what you said. And he said, this is what it costs. This is what it costs to work with me. This is what my clients pay me. Take it or leave it. And I'm like, damn, this guy is such a boss, man. Like this, I highly recommend everyone to follow The Future and Chris Do.
Yes.
But it's something I'm like, mental notes. Like if someone asks me, which I have had people ask me before, and I have to figure out how to justify it, which you shouldn't have to justify it. Yeah. The rate is the rate. Or lower
your rate, like at all.
Yeah, the rate is the rate, and if you want to play ball, let's play ball. And if you don't, have fun playing with that cheaper option. You may or may not get the result that you wanted in the first place.
And then they're gonna come crawling back to you and be like,
it always happens. It always happens.
Always, yeah.
So it's one of those like when someone like decides to go the cheaper route. Hey, that's fine. You're not wasting my time anymore. I'm not dealing with headaches from your end. So it's like you can figure it out, and you're gonna see the quality drop, and therefore see business drop potentially.
Damn.
So yeah, it's.
No, you have to know your value and your worth as a creative, no matter what you do, right?
But the key question is, how do you know your value? Ooh. A young creator is going to ask you, how do you know your value?
Yeah. Ooh, that is a great question.
So how would you?
If you're just starting out, I feel like obviously do your research, maybe ask around. I think, I've heard on your podcast, I've also heard on like other resources that like there's people who want to start right off the gate and just be like, I'm going to charge $1,000 a day or $1,000 for half a day. And it's like, you kind of have to have your shit. Like you have to back yourself up. You have to have the work behind you for you to like talk your talk and walk your walk, because your clients are paying you. They are investing in your services and you have to deliver. So if you don't have that experience, or if you don't have anything to show for it, then maybe it's not a right fit. But I also feel like I thoroughly believe that as creators, we have to invest our time and energy in creating the projects that we want to work on, So for me and Adrian, and I guess me specifically, I want to work on a docuseries. I want to work on a docuseries highlighting creatives and our stories. I want to put the limelight on them. And not to say that that's going to attract my ideal client right away, but down the line it might. And it might turn into something else. Who knows? Or all of the writing that I've been doing, writing these short narrative scripts, I just want to put my time and energy into these things because I could see down the line that I could attract maybe a commercial client who's like, I love this idea that you did, that you wrote and directed and produced. How can I work with you? You have to put your energy into those things and then start having the confidence to reach out. When Adrian and I started Futures Past 4 years ago now, we started as a social media company. We actually started beyond that. We're like, we could produce your podcast, we could do photo, video, we could do everything. We also did social media management. We just tried everything. And then we started narrowing down to the things that we thoroughly enjoyed. So it's like, what skill sets do you have to offer? What time and energy have you invested in? So I see so many amazing creators pick up a camera and they're so talented, whether it's in photography or videography, whatever it is. And even like the people that we know, just like taking up like a class for like UX, UI, and like they're like, well, I want to do this. Well, fucking do it, And also figuring out your worth. Sorry, this is just like a whole tangent around it.
I love it.
Do your research. Ask people that you admire. Like maybe not Chris Do caliber, because I'm sure he's not going to like answer your email. But if you're whatever city you live in, whatever, like your tap into your like local creative community. Ask your peers, make friends, and be like, hey, like, I see you're a photographer. I'm just starting out, and I would love to shadow you. I would love to assist. What does that look like? I would love to just learn from you. You know,
I was that guy with you guys.
oh yeah,
Or with Adrian.
You definitely were.
I was like, Adrian,
That was awesome.
I don't know anything about this, but you're doing it. Is there any way? I was trying to provide value. That's one thing I completely cut you off, and I
No, you're
apologize.
fine.
I would notice people say like, "Oh, let me take you out to coffee and pick your brain." Like, dude, that's a waste of time.
Yeah, true.
Don't ever ask me to go to a coffee and pick my brain because you're just wasting my time. Provide some value. Why do I need to give you something? Like, so what I did was like, I saw Adrian doing the kind of work that I wanted to do at that time, doing studio stuff because I wanted to get involved in lights and whatnot at the time. And so like, yo, Adrian, if you need help with some BTS or some video work, I am there to help you out. And I vividly remember the photo shoot that he curated with this local model. I forget her name. And I did the BTS video, and then he like loved it. I think I turned in the next day. That's all like, that's how driven I was.
Shit.
And then he started inviting me more and more to like sets and sets. So I'm like, dude, that all I wanted was the invite to these sets because I want to see how it is. I want to see the production. I want to see what you guys are. What's the chef look like in the cook, you know?
Right.
So it's all about providing value. But yeah, that's one way to
Absolutely.
step into like the world. So as you were saying.
And then at that point, you like ask for advice, right? You're like, hey, I have a client who wants to do a half day photo shoot or wants portraits or whatever. How much do you think I should charge? And it's just like, you have that conversation and then you start putting the numbers out there. And, you know, I don't think it's fair for people to shoot really high when they first start. I think I see the value in taking free work to practice your skills. Again, that's a necessity. It's the consistency that you're going to put into your craft that is going to matter. You know, it's that 10,000 hours that you're going to put into your skill, no matter what it is, no matter where you're at. And I don't know, I just think it just depends, you know, and you're going to find your value because you want to also be confident when you approach a client and you start these conversations, because when you're just starting out, it's just you, and you have to be confident in saying, this is how much I'm worth. Will this work within your budget? And if not, how can we work together to where we could both come out with
W's.
Yeah, wins, exactly. Like, you both have to come out with something where it just makes sense, client and as an entrepreneur or creative. For sure.
You had mentioned earlier about writing. You've been writing. What is it exactly you're writing?
I'm writing scripts.
Okay.
Yes.
How did you get into that?
You know, I started writing my first script during the pandemic. And it was when we still had a studio in National City. It was when one of our old business partners, he was definitely the one who wrote all of the narrative stuff, was like super inspiring. He was the one who actually like put me and put us, at least like Futures Past, on our first film set during the pandemic. And that's when I got this love of like, oh shit, there's 15 people here on set. How does that work? You know? And then that's when I started to see that you have a dedicated team to lighting. Each person has their specific role. You have an AD keeping track of time, making sure things are going well. You were on that shoot,
yeah,
with Alan in that warehouse, and like, it was so cool to see because that was my first experience, and I was just like, I forget what my role was, maybe production manager or something, but I was just like, yeah, I'm just here, you know.
Yeah, I was like second AC, I remember,
yeah,
and drone operator that got scrapped.
Oh, I know, so fast. But it was great because I saw that you could create this idea, and like, I didn't know what a script looked like. I didn't know any of that until I saw it printed out in my face, and I was like, oh, that's dope, you know. And I always told myself, oh, I'm not a writer, but I love to read. I also love movies, and I don't know, for me as a creative, I never gave myself the opportunity to really explore these opportunities, because I'm like, I'm not a writer, I'm not a producer, I'm not a filmmaker, I'm not a creative, I'm not a photographer, but I am all those things. I think as people, we're just so multifaceted and we're so multi-talented that we have to give ourselves the opportunity to try things and own it. Like, I don't know, it's like a self-confidence thing for me, you know? Like, I just never felt good enough. And I was like, well, I'm going to let all these other people do their thing because I just want to sit back and like do my thing, and that thing is producing and being behind the scenes. But I want to change that. I feel like I'm funny, and I feel like I could write some funny shit. I also think that I like the script that I wrote a couple years ago. It's still in development because I see it getting bigger and bigger, and I'm like, and that was the biggest tip that I learned when I first started to write was write without limits. Write as if the budget is unlimited and you could truly create this. Do not think as a producer. And I was like, that's the hardest thing, because immediately I'm like, oh shit, this could be expensive. I'm already adding 5 characters. I don't know that many people who could act, all these things. But now it's just been a practice for me because I want to exercise that. I want to put in my 10,000 hours to write. I want to put it out there. I want to experiment. And I also want us as a production company to produce these like short films, whether they're a minute, 5 minutes, maybe 10 minutes down the line, but and just have fun. Because again, this is what I believe our opportunity would be, is to put these projects out there and have fun with it. And then if people like it, cool. Maybe we'll attract some dope people who want to work with us at the end of the day.
How do you know when the script is done?
That's a great question. Because the script that I was talking about earlier, it was supposed to be a short film. And then when I did show it to one of my friends, he was like, this deserves to be a feature. And I was like, a feature? That's like a long, a long script.
That's a commitment.
That's like 60, 80 pages. And I think I'm at like page 45. And I'm just like, what more can I do? But what I did learn was, depending on the type of thing that you want to write, whether it's a feature film, that has a specific arc to it. You have act 1, act 2, et cetera, et cetera. With a short film, there are no rules. You could literally create whatever you want. So I think that's where I'm having fun, is that you could like dangle the carrot and like that's the end of it. You're like, cool, I'm just gonna leave the audience guessing. And you'll never know.
You never know.
You'll never know. So I think right now I'm just having fun. There is, I have a concept about a young woman who kind of...
Well, don't give it all the way. Yeah, we got to wait until it's actually produced and whatnot.
Exactly. But, there's a few things where I'm like, oh, I want to produce this, short 5-minute series. And then there's another one where Adrian wants to act. So he gave me the idea the other day. And he's like, write me a 2-page script. And I was like, okay. So I did that. And he was like,
dying to be in front of the camera. I see some of the stuff he's posted on his stories. That Mexican cartel look. He's dying to be in front of the camera. Have you always been a creative, even as a child or high school?
Oh my God. Yes. But kind of going back to what I was mentioning earlier, I never pursued it because I didn't think I was good enough.
Yeah, it's the second time I've heard you say that. Why did you think that?
I think a lot of it has to do with me coming from an immigrant family. I'm first gen Filipino. My family, my dad came here. He is in the Navy. He retired not too long ago. And then my mom, she's been working full time. So they've hustled. They've hustled since they got here,
Like most immigrants do.
Like most immigrants do. And so just being a daughter of an immigrant, the expectation, especially being the oldest child, the expectation has always been, you're going to be a nurse. You're going to pursue either being a doctor or whatever. But I never did that. And I always felt like there was a while, even after I graduated college. I graduated college in 2013 with a bachelor's in communication because I just knew, I went in undeclared because I was like, I'm going to figure it out. And then it was a year later, I was like, yeah, nursing's not going to do it for me. None of that weird shit's going to do it for me. And I remember even having that conversation, how scared I was to be like, I'm going to declare my major. And my parents are like, well, what are you going to do with that? And I'm like, I don't even know. So
you did get pushback. Hard.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think it was, as a child, I was always, I don't know, there was always some weird narrative that I told myself that I can't do these things. I remember I would always buy arts and crafts things. I was always gifted arts and crafts things. And I wrote a lot in a journal, both just my own experience and also just random stories. I like always crafted things and gifted it to people. And I don't know, I never felt like I could do it because I didn't want to let my parents down. You know, I never wanted to disappoint them because they see me as, okay, well, she's going to be like, you know, she's the oldest. She has this, like, I don't even want to say legacy to bring up, but she just has to like take care of her own, you know? Sure. And to them, that's just like continuously hustling. Ironically, here I am now, and like they respect me, and like it took a long time to get there because after I graduated, years after, my mom was like, "You sure you don't want to go back to school? You sure you don't want to be a nurse and study for that?" And I'm like,
guaranteed safety.
Pretty sure. And like, you know, it is scary being in an industry where, you know, as a freelancer, you don't know when your next dollar is going to be. You have so many highs and lows. And I think, yeah, like I know my mom is always like, "You good?" Like she'll check in every now and then. It's like, "Hey, like how's everything going?" And not to say that she's like trying to tell me to like change my career, but as a parent, you know, especially like, you know, they came here to ensure our success. They set up our life to be successful, and to like not see, or to see your daughter or whoever, like whatever, like
sure,
to see them struggling. Your parents don't want to see you struggle, period.
Yeah. I mean, she wants the best for you. I mean, most parents do. But man, it's pretty deep.
Yeah, I don't know. I just think it's, you know, we have a lot of layers we have to peel back, right? And I think especially as creatives, if we're in this industry, like you have to have tough fucking skin, and you have to also address your like past traumas if you have any, because it is hard. Because there's times where sometimes maybe your ideal client emails you, and then it's like, it just seems like this big, amazing thing. You're like, yes, this is exactly the type of project I want to work on. And then immediately gets taken away from you because something didn't work out. It's not you, but you can't personalize it. But sometimes you do, because you're like, oh, is it me? What could I have done differently? Holy shit. Maybe if I were someone else, like I would get that gig. And I never want to feel like that, because I'm like, crying. But I feel like we have to develop that tough skin. We also have to go through a lot of healing, and healing is hard because especially you have to face your past. If there are things that you need to like not necessarily fix, because it's all internal, it's all you. It's like I've processed so much trauma and stuff and like things I've experienced with my family myself. This isn't something I need to process with my parents, because they're also doing their own healing in their own time. But, you know, I see a therapist. I put a lot of energy into my self-care, especially in the last few years, because the world is chaotic, okay? And like, it's so unknown. Like, we're in uncharted territory right now. And I just want to make sure I'm mentally okay, that when things like that happen, or if I'm put in a position where like, oh shit, like I'm not worthy enough, or if that thought immediately comes up, I could quiet that, like, you know, put that in the back of my mind, or at least like quiet it as much as I can, because once you let that shit consume you, it's like, it's a really easy snowball effect where it could just bring you down even further and not help you. And then you just turn into this, like, I don't know, sad little burrito at home, and then you don't do anything. And then you're like, what happened to me? Yeah. You know?
You had mentioned going through highs and lows in this industry. And I agree, there are highs and lows. And I have my own ways of getting out those lows. I'm curious to know, what is it that you do, whether it is to express yourself in the creative space, or I know you mentioned therapy just now. How do you get out of your ruts, your lows?
I like to disassociate myself from like whatever I'm currently dealing with. Not even disassociate, but I like to separate myself from any screen. I like to be fully present. First of all, I meditate every morning. If I do not do that, like I just already know it's just not going to be a good day for me. Or if I forget, it's just like this, there's like a weird like I have a daily practice for myself so I could keep myself grounded, because showing up in this, like, for work, especially when you're working for yourself, you have to like be your own hype person, and sometimes you're not fully hyped. So I have to get in that mental state. But the ways that I like to get out of that rut or get out of any creative rut is to try something new. So I've recently been taking pottery classes.
Pottering?
Yeah, pottery
Okay.
classes. And it's been so cool because it's just you, this clay, and whatever the fuck it decides to be, you know? And like, it is a hard thing to do. Like, I've only taken 2 classes. I have my 3rd next week. But it's like this tactile thing that's completely separate from my work, because I'm literally behind a screen, either my phone or computer, all
Especially as a
hours
producer.
of the day. And then like you have to be at the ready, you know? And especially when you get hired to work on, like, I've worked on a few shows where I had no time off. Even after like we left the production office, I would be getting text messages at 11 o'clock at night, you know, or as soon as I wake up at 5 in the morning, and I'm like, I have to fix this now, you know. And there's a lot of things that, like, I don't know, that people are depending on you for. And like, that is the role of a producer, is that you have to fix these problems, you know, and you have to fix them now. That's the thing. That is kind of like the hardest part when you are a part of like a bigger project, you know. But for like smaller scale things and for our day to day, for Futures Past, or if I'm working as a coordinator for a local project, then it's like, it's pretty chill. But I like to set aside, I schedule this time for myself. And something Adrian and I do is schedule like our solo days, where we actually immerse ourselves away from technology and just like do whatever we want. I love walking to the bay, or I love going to the park and then just like journaling, or going to the museums. I love fucking going to museums. Mingay is beautiful here in San Diego, and I get so much inspiration there. I love going to coffee shops. I love talking to people and just having this face-to-face conversation. As humans, we're meant to connect. We're meant to be in community. And I think for a lot of us, we have relied on social media for so long that we stay behind those screens, when really all the magic is right here. It's in between. It's like between us right now. It's between like the conversation you have with your barista when you pick up your coffee. It's when you go to the grocery store. Like, it's great that we have these convenience apps and things like that, like Instacart, Amazon, whatever. But there's just so much cool shit that happens when you leave the comfort of your own home, when you connect with people in person. And even like the 7 other people I'm taking this pottery class with, we have a unique connection where we are experiencing this for the first time together. We're making mistakes together. We get to create, and like, just, I don't know. There's just something so, like, I can't describe it, because it's just like, it like makes my heart full, you know, when I'm in community.
Right. Yeah. I feel like social media, as convenient as it is meant to make people more connected. It's gotten people further and distance apart. Especially when it's face to face. I feel like more people are getting more and more awkward in a social setting, or they probably even go out their room because they're just it's so convenient to be there, or they're gaming or whatever. Something I've been picking up the last few years is like seeing people, communication is just dwindling down. And it's something, one of the reasons why I love doing the podcast is I get to sit down in person, have these kind of conversations, and it helps me. It helps me with my dialogue. I try to get better every single day, and I just don't want to lose, I guess, the how would you say, like the social energy. I don't know.
That synergy.
Yes.
Yeah.
Right. And so it's pretty wild how social media is doing this. And I don't know how I feel about it, because at the same time, I do take advantage of social media. For example, with the podcast, like currently going viral, almost at 1 million views in one of the clips. But it's like, I try to separate that too and try to like shut that down. Do you have any future projects coming up? I noticed you've been working with ClickUp recently. How's that been? How's that experience been?
I love ClickUp. it's funny because I feel like this is also another synergy moment for me where I believe it was last year when Adrian and I were like, oh, what are the projects that inspire us right now? And I remember bringing up a few ClickUp commercials. They produced a Super Bowl commercial last year. And like their scripts, everything, the quality of what they were producing as a tech company, okay? As a startup tech company that is productivity software. Who would have thought that they would create beautiful videos and just like funny concepts, you know, around their product? That was what captured me. And I was like, oh man, it would be a dream to work with them. And the stars aligned because Adrian has worked with one of the producers there.
Yeah, I know which one. Yeah,
yeah.
We've been a part of a film together. That's when I met Adrian.
Oh,
actually.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Everyone knows Shannon. She's fucking awesome.
Yeah.
And there was a time last year where she had just Adrian made a connection. We've been connected for years, never have met. And then she'd reached out because Adrian's like, oh, hey, like Alyssa would love to meet you, blah, blah, blah. And it just sparked a conversation between the both of us of like, oh, how can we work together? And I think she had just started at the time. And she's just like, hey, I need some additional help as a coordinator. We have some really awesome projects going on. Would you be interested? So went through like a interview process with her and another producer there. And it just has taken off. And it's been a lot of fun. Like, they keep me busy and keep me on my toes. And, like, the things that they produce every single week are fucking hilarious. And I just love being a part of a team again because it feels like family. You know, like, it's like I could go deep dive into their story, but I don't think I'm gonna. But just knowing that they have curated their own internal team for this company and like they're getting hired to create these things consistently, it's kind of like the dream, you know? Like Adrian and I talk about all the time, like we want funding for all of our ideas. And like here they are producing it and it's for ClickUp, but it doesn't lose the value of like what they're creating because it's so funny and like just the things that they do, the quality of the things that they produce. Like I learn every single day. I learn something new every day. I learn so much from all the team members there, the director, the TP, and the producers there. And it's like it's a small team, but like we make some crazy magic together. So it's been a lot of fun.
You had mentioned that the stars had aligned for you to land that gig. Okay, so I am a believer of some luck, but I'm more of a believer of hard work. You worked your ass off to get to this position. You've done the small projects, the self-funding projects, little budget projects as well. You've worked with crews and you learn how to coordinate all these kind of productions to, eventually you did land on that ClickUp gig. So it's like you worked your way to get to that position. So again, there's always a little bit of luck. It's all about connections as well, but you worked yourself to get to that position. So I think you should pat yourself in the back because
Thank you.
It's not just the stars align. Like, no, you fucking made it happen. Whether you knew it was going to happen or not, you still worked to get to that position that you're at right now.
I appreciate that.
So it's something you should, like I said, pat yourself in the back. Don't ever doubt yourself. Don't ever like forget about like all the stuff you've done in the past because it took baby steps, it took a lot of work, it took a lot of years, a lot of stress, blood, sweat, and tears, as they say. But you made it happen, man.
I appreciate that. Thank you.
It's something to think about. I know as we're wrapping up, let's go a little bit more in the funny side. Well, not too funny, more funny from my end. But like, give me one client horror story that you could think of, and you don't have to drop names, no companies, no numbers. Ballpark numbers would be great, just so something the audience could learn from.
I think there's been a few instances when we first started and during our first year, we had a lot of product clients. So they would send us their product, we would shoot it. And there was one particular client that was like, okay, we want just standard photography photos in the studio on a white backdrop of our product. I'm like, cool, we could do that. And when we delivered it to them, they're like, this isn't what we asked for. And I'm like, this is literally what you asked for. Here it is in the email. There's a paper trail for a reason. And then they literally paid us like $500 or something, which is not a lot. And for the amount that they were asking for. And then they're like, well, we were going to use this and this was going to be a part of a magazine. I'm like, why didn't you tell us that? And then they're like, why isn't this retouched? And I'm like, because that's your actual product. Like, that's what your product looks like. And if you want a professional retoucher, that is additional, And so it's like we learn from these experiences. And that was just like, also, we ended up having to refund them because they were just like not happy, at least like 50%. And I was just like, great, we paid $250 to shoot this shit. And like, it was just ridiculous. But they ended up using that shit anyways. So
those bastards.
But I was just like, at that point, we're like, let's just wipe ourselves clean and not work with them again, because if we're talking about alignment, like, you want to work with people who value you, who will like, who's willing to have a conversation with you if they're not happy, and not just be like, no, give us our money back. No, like, this isn't what we asked for. Well, let's talk about it, But also, like, we were very young, and that was 4 years ago, where we're like,
assuming you learned your lesson from that specific client, can you catch those red flags from the jump?
Oh yeah, for sure. I think now it's
Give me
just
some
like,
examples, please.
It's some intuition stuff. It's like,
what are the buzzwords they say where it's like red flag?
Oh man.
I got one right here. This shoot shouldn't take too long.
Oh,
it's only a quick 30-second video.
Oh, that's a good one.
Do you know how long it takes to create a 30-second video?
Yeah. Or no, they're like, oh, we want it to look like this. And then it's like a Nike commercial, or it's literally like
with a $10 budget.
Yeah, and their budget, and they're like, okay, our budget is like a couple thousand, and it's like, oh man, I love educating potential clients, because the second
I'm all about educating them.
You let them know that, like, okay, well, typically our shoots start at XYZ, and that includes pre-production, principal photography, post, whatever. And then, like, you just ring out the numbers. You give them a ballpark, and you just tell them, like, yo, you show them your work, and you're like, for something like this that we can definitely produce, I could tell you already that budget's going to be way over $100,000, like, and it's going to take more than half a day that you think is going to be quick, or like, oh, can we, when someone, how do
they take that information when you do educate them?
Oh,
are they receptive, or are they damn?
Sometimes, yeah. Sometimes they just ghost you, or sometimes they're just like, oh, okay, thanks, and then that's
take it at face value. Yeah. Before we wrap up, Alyssa, you've been doing great, by the way. Do you have one tip for the young creator out there? Any tip?
Stay curious. I think that's the biggest thing, is stay curious and be excited about what you do every day. I have had the opportunity to work on Netflix shows, for a Facebook Watch show. I've had, as a producer, I think also, like, not saying these people want to be producers, it's not the sexiest job again, but like, for someone in the creative industry, you just have to be curious about everything. Try new things, take on different gigs. I took on so many different gigs, and kind of like what you said earlier about how, like, the stars have aligned. You're right, it was a huge mix of my hard work, because I put myself in a position to try a coordinator role, to shoot my shot for that Netflix job that I ended up working for like 7 months, longer than what the actual, like, 3 months were, So I'm really grateful that I have put myself out there and have connected with people. I think also being open to connect with people is a big one, and reaching out and providing value, right? You're like, hey, I love your work. And that's how I initially even connected with Shannon. I love what you do. I love that you're also a producer here in San Diego who's a woman, because again, being a woman in a male-dominated industry is fucking tough. And like you see so many companies pop up and it's just men everywhere. But you also, as a woman, I take so much pride being a woman on set. So if there are women out there who are like, well, I don't want to take up space, fucking take up that space.
Do you ever feel intimidated being on set and you're kind of like, I don't want to say the term dictator, but you're kind of like bossing people around in a way, but not necessarily like in a mean, aggressive way, but you are telling people, hey, you got to do this. Hey, we got to make sure we got blah, 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 blah. Like, do you feel intimidated by telling people how to get their shit done?
I don't feel intimidated. I feel empowered. I feel empowered because as a producer, you have a certain title. People know to answer to you. Not in that way, but it's like, you know, you're the one sending out the call sheet or whatever. You're the one who's the first point of contact with a lot of the people on set. So you have to feel comfortable just owning that shit, you know? Like,
did it take time to get to that comfortability? Or
absolutely.
In the beginning, was it like, or was it just natural for you?
I wish it was natural. Again, I mean, hello, I have issues and I'm working through my shit constantly, but it took a lot of being on different sets, being around men, or being around sets and then like being a producer or a coordinator or being in the production team, and then people kind of overlook you. And then you're like, oh my God, like I'm invisible, but only you can make yourself feel that way. So it's like you have to take up space. You have to be like, introduce yourself to everybody on set if you don't know anybody. You know, like make yourself known. And that's how, I don't know, that's how I gained so much confidence, was because, hey, I'm Alyssa, I'm the coordinator, or hey, I'm Alyssa, I'm the story producer, blah, blah, blah. Like, I am here to help you. How can I help? You know, is there anything, I don't know.
And it's one thing I've noticed when I used to work with you guys a couple years ago, with just being part on sets as a PA or a second AC, whatever. I vividly remember, and I remember having this conversation with Adrian, your boyfriend, for those people that don't know who Adrian is. I vividly remember having this conversation with him because I was like, when I work with you guys do a really good job of making it feel like family. It made it fun. Again, you knew everybody because it was like a tight-knit group with you guys, and it just made a 12-hour day look and feel seamless. I got to work with another crew of people in LA one time for a music video, and it was the complete opposite. It was just like, I vividly remember the director of photography or the cinematographer at the time. He was a Mr. Too Cool for School, and it gave me a sour taste on that specific person. And I was cool with a couple of people there, but it's like, it just felt like a bunch of random people just working together just for the paycheck. Where with you guys, it felt like, hey, we're creating magic right here. And I remember telling Adrian, like, hey, dude, keep doing what you're doing, because I've experienced going on set. I'm sure you guys have obviously experienced this before, because you guys are in the actual industry and you're not always working with Futures Past. You're working with other crews. Keep that family energy going, which I something I appreciated.
Yay. I'm happy.
All right. Well, Alyssa, thank you so much for being in the podcast. Anything else before we close out?
No, thank you. Keep doing what you're doing, dude. It's really dope. It's inspiring to not just share this space with you, but also to see you do this, because it's re-inspiring me. I'm like, oh, I got to get back into it. I want to put myself out there again. I feel like I've been in a shell of myself of just like in the last couple of years of like just grinding, working on projects for other people. But this has inspired me to like just pour more into my cup. And I hope other people do that too.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, this feels like it's fulfilling me in a way, because like, again, I need to find a work-life balance, or a work creative balance, personal creative balance.
It's a flow.
Yeah. So like, I'm working for a bunch of clients, but I'm like, all right, I'm not creating for myself. What can I do that forcibly makes me create for me and makes me feel good? And the podcast seems to be doing. Yeah. Well, Alyssa, thank you so much. If you guys want to connect with her, the description, or every link will be in the description. Feel free to tap in. If you're on YouTube, subscribe button, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, all that good stuff. Subscribe, and we'll catch you guys later. Peace.